Hey Bulldogs, Chris Bryant here, and in today's CCNA 2012 video boot camp, it's going to be just like starting over twice. And we're going to have a demo on some switches today, actually, do something a little bit different, and I'm going to show you a couple of different commands to get one important task done. We're going to tackle that in just a moment. A very quick word about my popular CCNA 2012 video boot camp. All the videos in the course are now fully downloadable, so you can watch them online or you can download them, but the boot camp is always on your schedule. You also get to join our private forum where I'll answer your questions personally, and if for no other reason, I'd like you to head out there and watch this full free hour of the course, because that content is OSPF, including a hub and spoke configuration. A lot of good stuff for your exam there. So let's go ahead and dive right in and see what the heck I'm talking about today, because for the CCENT and CCNA exams, we got to know the details about erasing configs and what happens when you reload a router or a switch, etc., etc. But this isn't something we get to do on the job on a daily basis, especially if we enjoy our job, because senior network admins and supervisory types tend to get a little sensitive when you erase the configs every single day. So don't do that. But what we're going to do is walk through a reload here on a Cisco switch in this particular case, and a couple of little extra tidbits as we go along. Now, what we're actually doing here is emptying the contents of the non-volatile RAM. And you know the NVRAM, that's the RAM that retains its contents on reload, and you know what's in there. It's the startup configuration. Now I'll show you the way I've always done it, and those of you who watch my videos have seen me do it this way for a long time, and it's with the write erase command. I'm going to show you another way to do it just in case you don't want to use write erase for some reason. I would expect write erase to show up in some form on your exams, but you can see the way, or the prompt that we get when we run this command, and it even mentions the NVRAM file system, and it's saying, hey, if you do this, it's going to get rid of all the config files. Do you want to continue? We see one answer in the brackets. It's confirm. So if I want to continue, I would just hit OK or hit enter. The message is OK, and then you see erase of NVRAM is complete, and then a little more technical message: initialize the geometry of NVRAM, which is a fancy way of saying that you have erased the NVRAM. There is an erase command as well that you can use, and you're going to see that all option on some iOS's. I've seen it on some, not seen it on others, but notice even then it's saying erase all files in NVRAM. So you're not getting rid of your iOS image or anything like that. You have the flash option, you have the NVRAM option, and you have the option just to erase the startup config. So let's say that I did that now. Not any options there at all, and it's the exact same prompt. So I'm going to say yeah, and now I'm going to do a reload or a reinitialization. And if it asks you yes, no here, system config has been modified, you don't want to save, and you just want to go ahead and reload. When the confirm came up, I just hit enter again. And depending on what device you're reloading, you're going to see some different things here, especially at the beginning. But there's going to be that iOS load that I definitely want to show you in case you haven't seen that. And there it is. And I apologize in advance. The screen is going to go back and forth while we do that, because the pound signs are running off the screen. But this is actually good, because as long as you see these symbols, you know your iOS is loading. And you can see that was pretty quick. On some routers, of course, it's going to be a lot slower. But it's only when those pound signs stop that you have to concern yourself that there might be a serious problem. You're probably familiar with this post, the power on self-test. Let's take a look at that for just a moment. Remember these? These are in your CCENT study, so you might not have hit these yet. That's a power on self-test, and what it's doing, it's testing something on the switch that's basically saying we're testing this before we finish booting up, because if this doesn't work, there's no reason for us to finish booting up or even to start. So just looking at a couple of those here, you see a system board test it ran, it passed. Ethernet controller test, it passed. If those things are failing, then the switch is just going to say, you know what, there's really no reason to continue. I'm just going to give them a message right now, and I'm just going to stop loading. So you're going to get these messages, of course, also that we're seeing right now. Depends on what devices you're connected to. And we've got some stuff with the VLAN 1. I think that's going to be about it. So let's go ahead and scroll up on that. and let it finish catching up, and there we go. So here we have the same question being asked many times, and I'm actually glad I did that because it shows you that you can't skip this question. And it's such an innocent looking question. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? That sounds like a lot of fun, so I'm going to say yes. Now what it's going to do here is ask you a series of questions about how you want this the switch set up. This is setup mode that we are in right now. And you say, yeah, I'd love to go into basic management setup. Let's say no there. Would I like to see the current interface summary? Sure. So just want to show you a couple things you don't ordinarily see. And it's going to give you something on every single switch. It's going to ask you, or tell you if there's an IP address, what the status is, protocol, etc. So now I'm configuring global parameters. And sure, I'll call it switch 1. And I don't want to put in enable secret in, so I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice that I am not allowed to get around this either. So now I got to put an enable password. I don't want to do that either, but it's going to make you, so I'll set it to the same one as the enable secret, and you'll see that it will not let me do that. And now I don't want to set a telnet password either, and there's no defaulting allowed. So at this point, and believe me, this is just the beginning. Believe me. But at some point, there's a good chance you're going to get a little frustrated and think, I really didn't want to do it this way. I'll just configure the switch from the command line. And you're going to want to know how to get out of this. And you can hit escape all you want to, and that's not it. Very important that you know the keystroke to get out of setup mode, and it's all the way up here at the very beginning. Use Control-C to abort configuration dialog at any prompt. And you're going to tend not to scroll up and look for that, so it's a good keystroke to know. And I just used it. You'll see the message configuration aborted, no changes made. Press return to get started. You're going to have to wait for some other messages to come up here as well, but you will notice that at the switch, actually the other ones came up, so that's fine. But you'll notice here now I'm just dropped off at the switch prompt. And this is also what I would have gotten if way back when. I'm not sure if that question is still going to be on here. Yep, let's see, there's our reload. Let me show you that question. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? If you say no here, it drops you right off at that switch prompt, which is where we are now. That's usually the way you're going to configure a switch. It's the way I like to do is just say no right there, and then you just start at the command line. You go from there. But again, there's a couple of different ways to get rid of your startup configuration if that's what you want to do. It's a good lab command. It's an excellent exam command as well. And you know a couple of ways to erase that now, and also you get to see the dreaded setup mode. Now you know how to get out of it as well. I invite you to join us out on my Twitter feed, on YouTube, which is where you might be watching this video, on our blog and Facebook as well. And we've got some great free ebooks coming out on Amazon, as well as all of our other materials getting into Amazon, iPod, Nook formats, and everything else. And that's about it for today. So thanks for watching this video. I'm Chris Bryant, and thanks for making TBA part of your CCNA success story.